Anyway, let's go to Godfrey Bloom, who knows a thing or two about the 70s. He, like me, probably remembers all of the great stuff that you could get back then in the 70s. You know, avocado and prawns, chicken Kiev.
Tamsin Outhwaite.
Tamsin Outhwaite, that's it. Yeah, she's going to be in it. And Abigail's Party, of course, as well. Godfrey, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Oh, good morning to you. And also in the 70s, there was chocolate gatto, wasn't there?
There was, yeah, Black Forest Gatto, yeah. In fact,
Black Forest Gatto.
Yeah.
Rosé.
Yes.
Yes.
The trouble is, you say the 70s, but of course I don't remember the 70s because I was completely pissed for 10 years.
Well,
I was playing rugby. I was a member of a rugby club, not a very distinguished club, but it's old boys. So I played a lot of rugby football, and I always just get the girl who was the ugly mate of my best man. It was a very handsome fellow. And here's an annoying thing. You think, I got the ugly one, but at least she'd go like a bloody shithouse doll. Well, she didn't. And the glamorous one that my mate got did.
Right.
I've been emotionally scarred ever since.
That's not the memory I was expecting, but thank you for that. Because of course people say all the time we're sort of going back to the 70s because of course Andy Burnham, the man who's done 2 weeks' work and decided to go on holiday, Blue Nun there, says Lady Bay. Yeah, I remember that. It's driving the economy in a similar direction. There's a piece on the front of the Times today in which it says that ministers are drawing up plans to boost economic growth by exploiting the fiscal rules to raise government borrowing and spend the money on infrastructure, housing and support. I mean, do these people not understand economics or what?
No, they don't. And they didn't. Clement Attlee, after the war, didn't understand it and drove the country bankrupt. Then, of course, in the 70s, we had Jim Callaghan and people like that. Nice fellow, Jim Callaghan. He was a neighbour of my father. And a nice enough fellow, but he didn't understand it, bless him. And now we've got this also who don't understand it. Now, funny enough, because that brings us on to the question of bonds. And I used to manage fixed interest in the City of London with some modest success. And of course, a lot of the stuff we have isn't raised through taxation, it's raised through selling bonds to gullible foreigners. And of course, there comes a stage when gullible foreigners stop being gullible and they have a look across the English Channel or across the Atlantic Ocean or wherever they are sitting, and they're saying, no, just a minute, what we're actually doing is lending money to Andy Burnham, who's going to actually not spend it on infrastructure, he's going to blow it on welfare or warfare. And so that's not a good bet. And so in order to get our bonds away, we have to actually charge a very high rate of interest. So we have to go from where we are now to probably 9-10%. And of course, where we were in the 70s, if you remember, any viewers remember this, it went into the late teens. It was extraordinary, 16-17%. And people were abandoning their houses because it affects mortgage holders, and they were leaving the keys in the door and just going. And we're going to end up there again because these people haven't a clue. And I've got to be frank, the last lot weren't any better.
No. Oh, no, they weren't. I mean, they've in fact, I was laughing yesterday because I heard somebody from the Tory party talking about their new plan, which was to bring down tax and to bring down spending. And I went, well, hang on a minute, you're the people who put the tax up. You know, we had the highest rate of tax under the Conservative government in 2024 before they lost the election than we've ever had since the Second World War. You know, and so the idea that they're, and this is why so many people now say to me, I'll never vote Conservative again, because they've completely destroyed the economy, they've completely destroyed the social fabric of this country, they've completely let the place go to rack and ruin, the borders have been open for decades. You know, it's been a complete and utter disaster, and most of it you could quite happily lay at the door of the Tories.
Yes, and of course, there's one thing about the Conservative Party always, it didn't really matter what they did as long as they looked after the economy, because people will then vote Conservative and say, well, OK, they might be a bunch of clowns, but generally speaking, as far as the economy is concerned, they're OK.
Yes.
But you've got to go right back to Maggie Thatcher's fellow, the journalist fellow, Don, what's his name? He was a journalist anyway. And he said, that inflation is the story. It's inflation. You've got to control inflation. If you do that, the economy is okay. And of course, what we've done now is we've got ourselves into a terrible pickle because the inflation bubble is going to actually go through the roof because we have governments who don't understand the correlation between public spending, debt and tax. And we have not had since 1981, any political party who stood on a platform of cutting public spending. Not one.
No.
Not one. All those years. And so public spending has been taboo. And of course, the editorials of the newspapers and all the rest of it say, oh, well, you've got your Overton window and all that kind of nonsense. People won't put up with the lack of government, with cutting government spending. People won't. Well, of course, they would. That's what they want. Because they could cut waste. And if you cut waste, everything the government does is wasteful. I mean, we send billions to the Ukraine, which is a lost cause. 600 billion pounds out of the budget for the NHS goes to people with no clinical value whatsoever. And you need a few receptionists and cleaners and bits and pieces. It's absolutely ludicrous. And we have then spent half our budget, our defence budget, on aircraft carriers, which I wrote an article about 10 years ago when they started to build these things, that they are utterly useless, as the Americans are finding out. They're just big fat targets, and you can't have them anywhere near the foe. And so the whole thing's ridiculous. But we have a problem with our political system. The main problem we have with the political system is that people get into power, and people are voted into power, and people are in the civil service without what the Americans call skin in the game. Yeah. And if you try to explain it to a man from Mars, they'd be astonished. They say, just a minute, how do you elect your so-called democratic government? Say, he's got to be 18 years old. They said, is that the only criteria? Right. He's got to be 18.
Pretty much. Well, I mean, again, we're riddled with people in government who think that the way to success economically is to give the government money from taxpayers, which they then hand out to businesses, which then somehow generates growth. It doesn't work like that. I mean, the piece of the Times, again, says this: ministers are keen to find extra funding to raise direct investment in British businesses to stop high-growth startup companies from moving to the US. Well, they're not going to stop people moving to the US where they can get a better return for their money. And by handing out money to companies, that's not going to create anything other than more debt for the government, is it? I mean, it's just completely and utterly bonkers.
It's ridiculous robbing Peter to pay Paul when Paul is actually sitting at home watching daytime TV.
Yeah, exactly. And get this, right? They want to say they believe the money can be used to help hit the government's pledge to build 1.5 million homes by the end of the Parliament. This could involve giving preferential loans to developers, allowing them to use sites that would otherwise be unviable. No, don't give money to bloody developers. They've got enough money. If the developers are given free rein to build and make money, they'll do it, right? Take the regulation away, give them the ability to hire people, make it possible for them to make their own money. They don't need any subsidies.
Well, we've got to really re-examine the role of government. Is it the government's responsibility to build bloody houses? It's got nothing to do with the government at all. It's absolutely ludicrous. We need to have a look at the role. The companies with the socialists and the last Conservative Party, which was broadly socialist, believe that everything is the responsibility of government. Your family, your children, your houses, your job, everything is the responsibility of government. And of course, government has no experience of business, as we know from both front benches and shadow benches. They have no idea at all, and they shouldn't be let anywhere near the commercial world. And we should have another system. If you are not a contributor, if you're not in the wealth creating sector, you should be disenfranchised. We have millions of civil servants who haven't got a clue about anything, who are all socialists as well. They don't report to their ministers under the Blair system. They can't be sacked. And so consequently, things just get worse and worse, and we borrow more and more, and eventually we'll go down the lavatory, as we did in the late 1970s, getting back to the 1970s. And of course, we had this conversation a little while ago on your show, Mike, when the IMF came in and told us to do this and do that. That ship sailed. It's gone now. We're in the poo. We're deep in the poo. And there's another thing which is a bit depressing, I have to say, with the immigration problems that we have, the massive immigration problems we have. I think we're going to go like South Africa was some years ago and hasn't really come out of, and it's going to be gated communities. We are going to live in gated, ordinary people like you and me are going to have to live in gated communities because the crime is going through the roof and the whole thing's an absolute disaster. I'm already living in one.
Me too.
Have big fences, big gates, and that's how we're living. We're living. That's how we're doing.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely extraordinary. And how about this? I thought I'd get your view on this one. This is a piece of the Telegraph today, which is another sort of symptom of why this country is going down the gurgler. More than 1,000 Bank of England staff took up the opportunity to work abroad last year. Apparently, according to figures, staff spent 12,889 days working overseas in 2025. About 5,500 of them are able to or eligible to work from foreign countries for up to 40 days a year. Marvellous, isn't it?
I mean, really, you couldn't invent any of this. It's total crap. And the trouble is, I don't believe that we have, at the moment, there is no well-organised, serious political party for whom we can vote. And getting back to, if Andy Burnham decides to go to the country in the next 12 months, and if you look at the polls, where is the shadow cabinet going to come up? The only shadow cabinet we have at the moment is Conservative, and nobody's voted Conservative.
Yeah.
The Conservative's over. So where's the shadow cabinet? Where is the shadow cabinet for an opposition party, Minister of Defence, health ministers, chancellors of the exchequers, and all these kind of things? We have nobody waiting in the wings. Now, the difference in 1979 was we had Maggie Thatcher waiting in the wings, love her or hate her, she actually ran a tight economy. And so this actually worked. There's nobody for whom to vote.
Yeah. Well, she also had a pretty substantial team around her, didn't she? I mean, people who you could have counted on to be senior politicians who knew what they were doing.
Exactly. The only way, as I say, you can make it work now is you have to have your money elsewhere in Switzerland or something and live in a gated community, which is what I'm doing. I saw this coming, Mike, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I saw this coming down the path 20 years ago. So I'm well set because I don't own anything. It's all getting given away to one of the family. I'm absolutely broke. And when I die, they'll say I died destitute. And tee hee. He won't get a penny of my money, Mike.
Yeah,
Not
well played. Well played. And the other alternative that a lot of people like yourself have done is either what you've done and stayed in Britain, or you've actually just disappeared off and lived in a foreign country. And that's what's happening. So we are literally kind of losing some of the brilliant minds like yourself, some of the people who are experienced in business, experienced in giving advice to people, and people, it's just like a brain drain all over again, isn't it?
Well, 20 years ago, I'd go. And because I love this country and I love English beer, hand-pulled English beer, roast beef and Yorkshire pud, I'd go to the Isle of Man. I don't care about the rain. Rain's got nothing to do with it. If it rains a bit, I don't care. But you can live, and I was in the Isle of Man. I used to go to the Isle of Man on business, and I was there on a holiday a little while ago in a place called Peel, little fishing village. The pubs are delightful, the people are very friendly, and you're actually living in England without the arseholes that run the country. Yes, rather pleasant that, and they've got this rather kind of arcane parliament as well, haven't they? Where you can sort of rely on them to continue to do old-fashioned things like actually control law and order and not let loads of immigrants in. It's actually quite clever. Imagine if that was the case in the rest of Britain. Well, I mean, there's the crime rate's extremely low. The police don't spend any time with on speed cameras. There's no speed cameras there. It's a bit like stepping back into the 1950s, which is my favourite decade. But we had no money, Mike, in the 1950s.
No. We didn't need any, though. We didn't need any money either.
No, you were okay. You lived a happy life. As long as you were home in time for tea as a nipper, as I was in the 1950s, fishing for sticklebacks in the local pond or whatever it was. Yeah. As long as you were home in time for tea. My mother was a drill pig in the Royal Air Force. She was a sergeant in the Royal Air Force throughout the war. My father was a fighter pilot. And by gum, you were home in time for tea. You were home in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing. I mean, in the 70s, I feel very much the same as you felt about the 50s. We didn't have very much. We didn't really need very much. You didn't walk into a petrol station to find that there was about 55 different varieties of fruit and nut or Cadbury's chocolate. They didn't have any chocolate. You walked in and you paid for the petrol and there was nothing else to buy. That was it. And so it was a much simpler time. And I guess, we can't sit here all the time and complain that life is now more complicated and more difficult. But it really was a much simpler time, and you didn't need very much money to actually be reasonably, happy.
And there was no bloody palm oil in the chocolate either, Mike, because the bloody Americans didn't own Cadbury's.
Exactly right. Absolutely brilliant. Good to see you. Godfrey, absolutely. What a fantastic man. Godfrey Bloom. Light blue three-wheel spaz cars. Oh, yeah. Spaz. Well, I mean, that's probably not the technical term for them. It's probably a bit harsh. But yeah, I mean, I remember bubble cars. Remember the door that opened at the front and it only had one seat in it and you could get in. Going like a house door, I'm using that. Thank you, Godfrey, for that. You've entered it back into the lexicon. I'll tell you a little secret. You might know this about Jim Callaghan. He's the only other Prime Minister other than Andy Burnham who ever had a tattoo.
Well, he was in the Navy.
Yeah, that's why he had it. Exactly right. Correct. Yeah.
Was it his arm?
I don't know where it was, actually. No, I suspect it was on his arm.
Tell Godfrey to hang on, we've got a surprise.
Oh, hang on. We've got a surprise for you, Godfrey. Hang on. We're asking you to hang on.
On your last trip, did you discover what the Earth people eat? They eat a great many of these. They peel them with their metal knives. Boil them for 20 of their minutes. Then they smash them all to bits. They are clearly a most primitive people. For mash, get smash.
Fantastic. Wow. Well, what can you do? Well, that's really cheered me up, actually. And, I feel much renewed after our conversation. Godfrey, I know I keep saying it, we must do the lunch thing.
We're going to get it done.
As most of you know, my work is very heavily independently research-based, and I get my information from all over the world. It would help if you press the subscribe button and the little bell next to it, because the more subscribers I have, the more likely it is that international independent research institutes will share their material with me. It's most helpful, and then of course I'll automatically share it with you. So, surprise won't cost you anything. Thank you very much.